The sort of limit we're dealing with here is an indeterminacy of the type 0 divided by 0. The reason is, if you substitute the numerator by pi, you have the sign of pi half, which is 1, and then it's 1 minus 1, so you have 0 in the numerator. And in the denominator, if you make x equal to pi, you have also pi minus pi, which is 0. So you have 0 divided by 0, right? Okay, we have to deal with this limit somehow. And since there is a sign here, one feels the temptation to say that this is equivalent to x divided by 2 and work it out, right? The problem in doing this is that this equivalence is true only if x goes to 0, but this is not the limit that we have there. We have the limit when x goes to pi. So this inequality is useless in this case, right? So we have to resort to something else. So let's get rid of this, okay? And what we're going to do is to introduce a new variable, right? We're going to transform this limit into the limit of a variable that goes to 0. And in order to connect these two variables, what we have to do is just to redefine x as x plus t, right? Because in that case, when t goes to 0, x goes to pi. This is a trivial transformation, right? And this is a change of variable, okay? So we're just defining x minus pi equal to t. So if we do that, what we have here is 1 minus the sign of, we substitute this here, so we divide by 2. So we have pi half plus t half, okay? Pi half plus t half. And then down here, what you have is just t squared. All right. Now you have the sign of pi half plus t half. There are two ways to resolve this. One is the algebraic way, this is the sum of angles, okay? So what you do is you expand this as the sine of pi half, the cosine of t half, plus cosine of pi half, sine of t half. All right? Now this number here is 0, okay, because the cosine of pi half is 0, so this term here does not appear. And the sine of pi half is equal to 1. So this is just the cosine of t half, right? This is one way. The other way is geometrically. I mean, if you have the unit cycle, right, like this, okay, you have your unit cycle, then you take an angle t, right, this one, or t half, okay, that's the angle we're dealing with. If you add pi half, what you have is this angle here. Okay, this is pi half plus t half, right? Pi half plus t half. Okay, now notice that the sine of this, which is this, right? The sine of this is equal to the cosine of this angle here. So this sine, this segment here, is equal to this segment here. So you have exactly the same result. The sine of this is equal to the cosine of this angle here, right? So whichever you do it, you end up with the same result. And it turns out that you can transform this into this, 1 minus cosine t half divided by t squared. All right. Now we're in a different situation because we have t going to 0, so t half also goes to 0. And now we have something of which we know an equivalence, which is this, right? And it's involved in a quotient, so we can transform this into an equivalent, right? We know that 1 minus the cosine of something that goes to 0 like this is equal to this something squared divided by 2, okay, when t goes to 0. And actually, this expression is just t squared divided by 4 times 2, which is 8. So we can replace this numerator here by t squared divided by 8. So we have this limit transformed into this one. Is the limit when t goes to 0 of t squared divided by 8 divided by t squared. And of course the t squared cancels, right? So this is just 1/8. So this limit is simply 1/8.